A phone rings inside a quiet hotel room in London. The sound cuts through the stillness like an unexpected visitor. The person who picks it up has no idea that in less than 72 hours, an entire country will stop breathing at the same time because of her. What happens next sounds impossible, almost cinematic in its improbability. A teenager from a small tennis background, barely known outside her own circle just a few years earlier, is about to walk onto the most famous grass court on the planet. And somewhere on the other side of the world, millions of people who have never watched a full tennis match in their lives are about to set alarms for 3 o'clock in the morning just to watch her play. Nobody warned them this was coming. Nobody could have. Because right now, before any of it happens, Alex is just sitting there lacing up her shoes, completely unaware that she is about to become the most talked about name in an entire nation's history. Rewind for a second. To truly understand why an airport full of strangers would later scream her name until their voices cracked, you have to go back to a version of Alex that almost nobody paid attention to. She wasn't the story anyone expected. She came from a tennis scene that, in the grand scheme of global sports, felt peripheral. In the Philippines, basketball courts dominate the landscape, and tennis remains a niche pursuit, often reserved for those with access to private clubs or the determination to chase a dream on cracked public courts under the relentless tropical sun. Alex's early journey wasn't paved with golden tickets or viral highlights. It was built on quiet persistence, early morning practices, long bus rides to tournaments, and the kind of family support that sacrifices weekends and vacations without complaint. Before Wimbledon, when reporters and analysts made their predictions for the draw, her name barely showed up in the conversation. The spotlight belonged to bigger names, established champions with Grand Slam titles already lining their shelves, players whose careers were defined by consistency and star power. Alex was the quiet name buried somewhere deep in the bracket, the kind of entry that casual fans scroll past without a second thought. She entered the tournament as a relative unknown on the world stage, carrying the weight of low expectations like an invisible cloak. But here's the thing about quiet names. Sometimes they're quiet because nobody has looked closely enough yet. Sometimes the most powerful stories begin not with thunderous applause, but with the soft rustle of potential waiting to be discovered. The first match happens, and it's over almost before anyone notices. She wins. Not a headline. Not yet. Just a small ripple, the kind that barely registers on the surface of the tennis world's vast ocean. Somewhere back home in the Philippines, a handful of diehard fans refresh a score app on their phones, nod approvingly, and move on with their day. Life continues. Traffic in Manila clogs the streets, markets buzz with vendors, and offices hum with the usual rhythm. But ripples, as we know from nature itself, don't stay small forever. They expand outward, gathering momentum with every new disturbance. Match 2 arrives, and something subtle changes in the air. She wins again, this time with a performance that carries a sharper edge, a glimpse of the composure that would soon define her. The ripple turns into a wave that a few more people notice. A cousin sends a screenshot to a family group chat. A stranger comments on a local sports forum. A small crack begins to form in the wall of national indifference that had long surrounded tennis in the country. And through that crack, curiosity starts leaking out like sunlight-piercing clouds after a storm. By the third match, the shift feels complete and irreversible. The wave has become impossible to ignore. Alex isn't just winning matches. She's doing it in a way that makes people lean closer to their screens, phones, or laptops. There's a stillness in how she handles pressure points, a calm that seems almost otherworldly for someone navigating a stage this massive for what feels like the first time. Commentators, initially dismissive or neutral, start using her name more frequently. Analysts pull up her stats mid-broadcast, surprised by the efficiency of her ground strokes and the precision of her movement on grass. Somewhere in a living room thousands of miles away, a father who has never cared about tennis suddenly finds himself holding his breath during a tense deuce point. His children glance over, curious about this new intensity in their usually distracted parent. That's when the questions start multiplying like wildfire. Who is this player nobody warned us about? Why does she look so unbothered when the entire match hangs on a single shot? How is it possible for someone so young to maintain that level of focus amid the roaring crowds and the weight of history? And most importantly, how far can this actually go? Nobody has the answer yet. That uncertainty, the genuine not knowing, is exactly what keeps people hitting refresh on their devices late into the night. Uncertainty, real uncertainty, is the most addictive feeling in the world. It transforms passive viewers into invested participants, turning a niche sport into a shared national heartbeat. Then comes the fourth round. Say that sentence slowly because it carries more weight than it sounds like it should. No Filipino singles player had ever reached this point at Wimbledon before. Not one. Ever. Which means every single point in that match wasn't just a point. It was history being written in real time, stroke by stroke, under the iconic center court roof if needed. And somehow, almost by accident, millions of people found themselves watching the exact moment it happened. The broadcast ratings back home spiked dramatically. Online forums lit up. Social media timelines flooded with clips of her powerful serves and graceful volleys. Think about what that actually means for a second. Somewhere in Manila, a father wakes his sleeping son at 2 o'clock in the morning, not because of an emergency, but because he doesn't want the boy to miss witnessing something historic. He whispers explanations about the rules, pointing excitedly at the screen as Alex rallies from behind. Elsewhere, an office worker sits in her car during a lunch break, phone propped against the dashboard, refusing to go back inside the building until the match is decided. Her colleagues text her updates, half joking about her sudden obsession. In a dimly lit dorm room, a group of teenagers crowd around a single phone screen, all holding their breath at the exact same second during crucial break points. None of these people know each other. None planned this collective vigil. Yet they're connected by the same nervous energy, the same unspoken hope that this moment doesn't slip away into obscurity. That's the strange, almost mystical magic of sport. It doesn't ask permission before it turns strangers into something like family. It bridges divides of age, class, region, and creates a temporary but powerful unity. In the Philippines, a country often celebrated for its resilience in the face of natural disasters and economic challenges, this run felt like a different kind of triumph. It was a reminder that excellence could emerge from anywhere, that talent and heart could transcend traditional power structures in global sports. But here's where the story could have gone in a completely different direction, and it almost did. Reaching a milestone like the fourth round comes with a weight most people never see from the outside. The second Alex became a headline, she also became a target. Every subsequent match wasn't just tennis anymore. It was an event, loaded with cultural significance and emotional investment. History is littered with breakthrough stars who shone brightly once and then faded under the crushing pressure of trying to repeat the magic. The real question wasn't whether Alex could win one big match. It was whether she could survive what came after. The scrutiny, the expectations, the sudden elevation from underdog to national symbol. Interviews multiplied overnight. Cameras that once ignored her now followed her every move. Every practice session, every warm-up drill, every small gesture during changeovers became fodder for analysis. Microphones thrust toward her captured not just answers, but the poise with which she delivered them. For many athletes, this level of attention becomes suffocating. It alters movement, clouds thinking, and disrupts the pure joy of competition. Suddenly, you're not playing for yourself. You're carrying the hopes of millions. But something strange kept happening every time the cameras caught Alex between points. She didn't look rattled. She didn't appear to be drowning under the pressure. If anything, she looked like someone who had quietly decided, long before the bright lights of Wimbledon, that outside noise would not dictate her game. That inner resolve, that quiet confidence, became its own compelling subplot, perhaps even more inspiring than the wins themselves. People don't just fall in love with results. They fall in love with character. The way someone carries themselves when the score is against them, when the crowd is roaring for their opponent, when doubt creeps in. Alex's composure told a deeper story about preparation meeting opportunity. It spoke to years of unseen work, technical refinements with coaches, mental training to handle big moments, and a cultural upbringing that emphasized resilience and humility. Slowly, without any official announcement, something bigger than a single player's tournament run started forming. It transcended the grass courts of London and began unfolding in homes, classrooms, barangay basketball courts retrofitted with makeshift tennis nets, and community centers where kids gathered around shared screens. The story was no longer just about tennis. It was about possibility. Every young girl clutching a second-hand racket on a cracked court in the provinces now had a living answer to what's possible. Every parent who once gently steered their child toward more practical paths found themselves reconsidering. Grandmothers shared news clippings with neighbors. Teachers incorporated discussions about focus and perseverance into lessons. The ripple effects extended far beyond sports statistics. But let's not rush ahead. The tournament itself continued delivering layers of tension. Every match after that historic fourth round carried a different kind of pressure. The pressure of being seen, studied, and expected to deliver. Opponents adjusted their strategies, poring over footage for weaknesses. Analysts dissected her game for flaws. The element of surprise that fueled her early success evaporated, replaced by the heavier burden of expectation. Expectation is a formidable opponent because you can't out-hit it or outmaneuver it with footwork. The only path through it is internal, refusing to let it control your decisions or erode your belief. Match by match, Alex navigated this new terrain. With every passing round, the audience back home swelled. What began as a handful of dedicated fans evolved into an entire nation rearranging sleep schedules, work shifts, and family routines around one name. Businesses reported dips in productivity as employees tuned in. Restaurants played matches on big screens. The collective investment was palpable, turning individual fandom into a cultural phenomenon. Eventually, the tournament run reached its natural conclusion. Every story, no matter how enchanting, arrives at the point where the final match ends and the plane ticket home gets booked. Many assumed the narrative would quietly fade. Instead, it exploded into something even more profound. Word spread organically about her flight details, not through press releases, but through the organic momentum of shared passion. People started making plans independently. Someone canceled an afternoon shift. A family drove hours from the provinces. Another printed signs with markers borrowed from school supplies. There was no coordinated campaign, no official call to action. People simply decided this was a moment worth experiencing firsthand. By arrival day at the airport, the scene transformed from routine transit hub to emotional epicenter. Flags stretched across. Barriers. Homemade banners bobbed above heads. Phones recorded hours before anything happened. This wasn't manufactured hype. It was authentic outpouring. People waited because Alex's story had become personal. Her determination mirrored their own struggles. Her breakthrough echoed their aspirations. The wait stretched, building that unique tension of collective anticipation. Ripples of excitement rose and fell as false alarms circulated. Strangers bonded instantly, swapping favorite match moments. Then, the flight landed. The atmosphere ignited. Doors opened, and a wall of sound erupted. Raw cheers, chants of her name, flags waving like a sea of pride. Alex walked forward, not with detachment, but with presence. She slowed down, made eye contact, smiled genuinely, thanked those closest. In that humility, she reinforced the connection. Clips spread globally, touching Filipinos abroad with waves of pride and nostalgia. This wasn't the ending. It was a new beginning. Breakthroughs thrill, but also shadow the future with higher bars. Celebrations fade. The grind returns, silent practices, physical tolls, adaptation to new surfaces. Hard courts awaited, demanding different skills. Quicker adjustments, varied footwork, resilience against different bounces. The question echoed louder. Can she adapt? Can she sustain? Far from stadiums, quieter legacies bloomed. Kids picked up rackets on public courts. Coaching classes overflowed. Families invested in lessons. These unseen shifts, new dreams ignited, barriers lowered, may prove the most enduring impact. Another quiet talent might emerge, inspired by this precedent. The hotel room in London feels distant now. What started as an ordinary preparation became history. The plane has landed again, this time toward new challenges. The cheering quiets, but the story turns the page. Another wave of investment builds. Whether triumphs or setbacks follow, one truth stands. This transcends tennis. It's about how one person's quiet determination can awaken a nation's belief. It's about strangers becoming family in an airport hallway. It's about realizing in retrospect that you stood in the middle of something transformative. The real question isn't mere repetition. It's what happens to a country that has tasted possibility. Once belief takes root, it doesn't easily fade. That momentum, expanding outward, might be the most powerful legacy still unfolding. Alex's journey reminds us that the biggest moments often arrive disguised as ordinary days. They reveal their scale only later, when we look back and recognize we were holding our breath in the heart of history.